guys, I'm Brittany and you're watching the Living Beyond Asana vlog. And for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking all about asana as kind of a precursor to my upcoming course, Demystifying Your Asana, where I'm going to be breaking down 40 of the most common postures in Vinyasa Yoga. So if you want to learn more about that, you can click the link above or below or wherever it is and check out that. Registration is opened now and closes October 27th. So for now, we're going to be talking about how to protect your wrist in your Vinyasa yoga practice, or any yoga practice for that matter. Okay. So the biggest thing about protecting your wrist is understanding hand placement when your hands are on the ground, right? So you want your hands, we'll talk about first how far apart they should be, right? So, they say shoulder width, but when you think about it, right, is it shoulder width from the pinky or is it shoulder width from the thumb, right? Because that's a big difference. Shoulder width from the pinky is like here. Shoulder width from the thumb is like here, right? So it's more for me, I like to teach shoulder width from the thumb, but an even easier way to do it is I always cue your hands about mat width, unless you have like one of those ridiculously thick, like wide mats. Mat width is a really pretty good way to judge. And I like to say pinkies brushing the edge of the mat. Now, if you have really broad shoulders, your pinkies can actually start to come off the mat, right? Like on the ground, but off the mat, go a little bit wider. If you have a thin base, like a narrow frame, my frame's not that wide, and I still go mat width no problem. What you want to avoid is getting super close in, right? And the reason is because it's going to make it more challenging for your shoulders and chest to stay open. And believe it or not, the way that the shoulders and the chest and the upper back all articulate have a lot to do with the safety and health of the wrists. Because you're using, in any pose where there's weight bearing on your hands, you're using the support of the rest of the body to counter all the weight that you're putting on your hands, right? So when you bring your hands onto the ground, they start to bring weight on them, right? It's not just about pouring the weight into the rest, right? It's about using the rest of the body to engage, right? So that you are not only using the wrist, right? And that includes the hands and the fingers. All right, so we're going to talk about the four kind of alignment cues for the hands, these four corners of the hands, right? And how you want to press them into the ground to create a distribution of weight, right? So the first is the knuckle of the pointer finger into the tip of the pointer finger. That's one. Number two is the knuckle of the thumb into the inner edge of the thumb. Right, inner edge, so you're pressing down. Number three is the whole pinky. You just press that whole pinky down. And number four is just feeling the way the heel of the hand really presses into the ground, which will be a little probably less than if you didn't do those three cues, right? So you're really finding, right, these roots here, this connection, so that it's not all in the wrist, right? So now when you come into something, say like a plank pose, right, you're feeling this connection through the whole hand, right? The next step here is really finding engagement in the upper back, and that's what I like to call the heart melt, right? So you're going to inhale, puff into the upper back and spread it. Different from a cat-cow, right? Because I'm not doing this. And then you're going to melt the back of the heart down, right? You're just melting that down, and then pulling the belly in, right? So the back of the heart melts, but the belly pulls in. So if you notice, right, I'm not losing the center. It's still very much engaged. And that alone takes off some weight from the wrist. I'm pressing down, but again, like lifting up, right? If you saw my video a couple weeks ago, if you didn't, you can check it out, about sinking, right? This is the antithesis of sinking, right? I'm pressing down to root up, like a press and rebound idea, right? So I'm engaging up into my body so that when I come into something like plank, right? I'm using the core, the arms, and then eventually the legs, right? The belly pulls in. So my tush isn't up in the sky, my belly pulls in. And I'm using everything so that I'm not really feeling this as much in my waist, right? And then that's the same thing when you go back into a downward facing dog, right? You're thinking of it as the shoulders pulling, drawing out from the wrist, and then the hips drawing out from the shoulders, so that the weight is now distributed as opposed to just pressing down into the wrists. And you'll notice, like if you practice and your fingers tend to uplift off the ground, right? Like your hand is here, but the fingers are lifting, and there's really not a lot of pressing into the knuckles. The wrist is going to take that, right? Now there's a difference between clawing your hands into the ground, right, with power, where that creates this little lift in the gully, and the hands just kind of being like that, right? So one way you can think about it is this is the midline of the hand, right? This is the center of the hand. If that place is kind of drawing in and up, you're in a good place, right? Because you're really drawing that energy up the body. Something I love to do with my students is bring them into this posture called Anahatasana, but do the prep for it, where they're on fingertips, right? And the head is here, and it's like their suction cup here, right? Drawing that energy all the way up the arm, right? So you can try that as well, okay? So let me know if you have any questions about this. Next time you get on your mat, really starting to do this, just think about this idea of it's not about just dropping all the weight into the wrist. It's about finding other places in the body, including the hands, shoulders, the core, and in most cases the legs, to counter the weight that you're putting into the wrists. Okay? So be well, take care of yourself in your yoga practice, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.